Hey guys, it is Danny and Michelle. We are back with another Mystery Monday video. Today is a mystery that takes place in our hometown of
Chicago.
Takes place in our hometown of Chicago. So what better way to kick off this week than talking about some mysteries that happen in Chicago? So without further ado, here we go. Alright guys, so we're about to hop into this Bella Fiori video. We have done a video by Bella Fiori before, so I will go ahead and link her again in the description. Go follow her, she's great. Awesome videos that I'm sure you can tell we love. If you guys have any thoughts about this case, any theories, or maybe look up some stuff and catch some stuff that Bella may have missed, go ahead and comment that in the bottom. Go ahead and comment that in the comments below. If you are new here, welcome. We do these kind of videos every single Monday where we talk about a mystery and then we kind of give our thoughts on them. So stay tuned. You can catch us every Monday for these type of videos. Go ahead and look on the channel. We have different videos every week, or every day that we do every week. So if you like any of our videos, they will be coming out every week. So go ahead and subscribe. Love you guys. Let's go check this video out.
Let's just go ahead and get into this week's case. Today's case is going to be about the disappearance / murder of the Grimes sisters. So on December 28th in 1956, Barbara Grimes, who was 15, and Patricia Grimes, who was 13, went to go and see the Love Me Tender movie by Elvis for the 15th time because they were obsessed with Elvis. They left home at 7:30 p.m. and they had no more than $2.50 in their pockets. They were meant to return home by 11:45 if they did decide to stay and see the second screening of the movie. Their mother, Loretta, her friend Dorothy, was also at the movie. She saw them at the concession, said they were really happy, and was actually sitting behind them in the first screening of the movie, but she didn't stay for the second screening, so she has no idea if they were there for the second screening, but they never came home at 11:45 when they were supposed to. Loretta grew worried and she ended up sending her older two children down to the bus stop near their house where Barbara and Patricia would come home via the bus, like on their way home from the screening of the movie. That she sent her two older children down there and they waited to see if they were coming home, and they waited. 3 buses went past. They waited until 2 a.m. and there was no sign of Barbara and Patricia, so they went home and they told Loretta that the girls did not come home. After Loretta learned that her daughters didn't come home, she ended up calling the police, and in the following days they ended up having one of the biggest citywide searches in Chicago's history.
So I wanted to stop right there where she says one of the biggest citywide searches in Chicago's history. I thought that was nuts. Chicago is a huge city, which I'm sure you guys know. So to be talking about a case that garnered so much attention that I haven't heard about, and I mean, we weren't alive during the time, obviously, but
Still,
we have heard about some crazy Chicago cases.
we weren't alive anymore.
And to think about this one we haven't even heard of, but had obviously a huge amount of like following and stuff like that. It's kind of nuts to kind of see that this has flown under the radar, and I think a reason behind that is because there is no clear conclusion, and people hate not being able to have that kind of closure. So I think that really has made this case fade a little bit into obscurity, but I think it's a really interesting case that should be talked about more, and deserves to have more attention shined on it. So that's why I picked this case for today.
Even neighboring cities and counties to Chicago helped out, they provided resources and people to search for these girls, but they found nothing. By the way, I know I'm in the middle of a Mystery Monday, but I just want to say this really quick because last time this happened in a Mystery Monday, I had so many comments about it. No, I am not crying, I'm just really sick, so I have to take a break like every 3 minutes to cough, because talking too much, it just like makes me cough so incredibly much. So no, I am not crying, I'm not high, before I get a million comments asking that. I'm just sick still, so it's really hard for me to talk for a long period of time. Anyway, let's get back to the case. After this search, there were a lot of random sightings of the girls that were actually called in and reported, and they were all over in different cities, all over America, some even as far as Nashville, Tennessee. It led to the theory.
That's crazy.
Yeah, some as far as Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know if you guys are even from America. I know during my first couple of my first videos, I had people from like France and Germany and stuff like that. So I will actually go ahead and put a picture of the map from Chicago to Nashville, Tennessee, just so you guys can see how far that is. Boom, map of Nashville to Chicago right there. And then I will also put up how far that is.
Led to the theory that they ran away to go and to see and meet Elvis. This theory actually ended up blowing up to the point where Elvis went on the radio and pleaded for these girls to return home. The only reason I'm mentioning this theory now is because it actually was factually disproven, this theory, like it's impossible that this theory could be true. But I just wanted to mention it because I thought it was interesting and it's a big part of the case, and I just want you guys to know everything about the case. So I'm including it anyway, but I just want to include it now instead of when we get down to like the theories and stuff, because you guys will be like, why are you mentioning this? It's not even true. So their mother Loretta did not believe for a second that they ran away because they left everything behind. They had no clothes, they had no money, they had nothing, and there was just no way that they left behind their Christmas present. They got a AM radio for Christmas and they were just obsessed with it, and their mother just thought there is no way that they would leave without it. Unfortunately, on January the 22nd in 1957, the bodies of the two girls were found in Willow Springs. A man named...
She didn't post anything about where like Willow Springs is
It's not far.
in relation to Chicago. So I will also post a map showing where that is in relation right there. All right, cool. Moving on.
A man named Leonard Prescott was driving along German Church Road when he saw two bodies on the side of the road, and originally he thought they were mannequins when he first saw them, so he headed home and he got his wife, and together they came back and had a look at the bodies and discovered that they were not mannequins. They were in fact the bodies of Barbara and Patricia, and they were actually found naked. When the bodies were found, they were actually in a really weird position as well. Barbara was face down naked, they were both naked, and Patricia was on top of her facing up perpendicular to Barbara, and on top of this their faces had been like ravaged at by animals, so they were quite damaged. So at 1:30 p.m. the Prescott family couple, Leonard and his wife, called the police and reported the bodies, and the police actually determined that the bodies had been there for about 2 weeks. They had been there since January 9th or January 10th, and the only reason that they hadn't been discovered is because there was a whole bunch of snowfall and it was only just melting, which is why their bodies were out in the open rather than under the snow. From their autopsy, it was also proven that they died within 4 hours of going missing. So the night that they went to go and see Love Me Tender by Elvis, they died 4 hours after that, as they still had their dinner from that night in their stomachs. So this is why basically the theory that they ran away is just impossible that it's true, because they still had their dinner, they died 4 hours after. So there was no obvious cause of death. It was ruled a murder, but they had no explanation for the death, so they said that they died of shock due to exposure of the elements. The coroner, Walter McCarran, who actually conducted the autopsy and gave...
This, I think, was really stupid. So, like, the coroner literally just said, oh, it's murder, but then they don't have any evidence to prove that it was murder.
They just say the elements.
So then they just instantly switch it to say, like, oh, nah, it wasn't murder, it was the elements.
How does the elements, like, strip them and put them on top of each other?
It makes zero sense at all, and it's ridiculously stupid. Honestly. Alright, carrying on. Not the best showing for Illinois police, I guess, yeah.
Cause of death. He was criticized really hard for this because it seems like the autopsy results were fudged. After the bodies were found, there were quite a few suspects as to who could have murdered these girls, and one of the most famous suspects was Edward Lee Bedwell, who actually confessed to the murders, but there wasn't enough evidence to convict him. He also ended up recanting his admission of guilt, and it's also said that he was coerced to even admit it in the first place by the County Cook Sheriff's Police Department, and he was then cleared of any involvement in the case. So the case ended up going cold after this until 2012, when Ray Johnson, who is an author and he was also a former criminal investigator, actually came up with a new lead. When Ray was looking into the murder of Bonnie Leigh Scott, which took place in Addison, he actually discovered that her case and the case of the Grimes sisters was really, really similar. Bonnie was 15 at the time that she was murdered, and she was also found naked. There were also non-lethal marks on Bonnie's body, which were very similar to those that were on the Grimes sisters. The man who was responsible for Bonnie's murder, Charles Leroy Melkist, I believe it's pronounced. Apparently, he made a phone call to Loretta, bragging about the fact that he had killed her daughters and gotten away with it. Originally, when Loretta received this call, it was anonymous, but later on, Loretta heard his voice in like an interview or something like that, and she just knew that it was him. She was like, this is the man that called me. He has an unforgettable voice. So as soon as she heard his voice, she just immediately knew it was him and said she would never forget his voice. So there was actually apparently a third girl who was abducted with the Grimes sisters, who was 14 years old at the time of the abduction, but didn't come forward because she was scared. She was 14 and she just didn't know what to do, basically. She did agree to talk to the authorities about this, but I couldn't find any information further than this interview that Ray had with her, and her identity was kept a secret because she did not want to draw any attention to herself. But she did say one thing. She said he had an unforgettable voice. Apparently it was very distinctive, which could link in with the fact that Loretta heard his voice and said that she knew that it was his voice as soon as she heard it, because as these people are saying, he could have had a very distinctive voice. Charles was actually convicted for Bonnie's murder, and he was sentenced to 99 years in jail. He only served 11 of these, and when he got out, he married and had 2 kids, which I just wanted to point out because I just find that so disgusting that someone can murder, like literally murder someone and then go on to live happily. But Charles did end up passing away in 2010, so he can't be interviewed for the murder of the Grimes sisters. And on top of this, unfortunately, Loretta passed away at the age of 83, and she is just never gonna know what happened to her daughters, which just breaks my heart into pieces. That is all of the information for this case. I want to know what you guys think. Considering the similarity of the Bonnie case and the Grimes sisters case, I definitely would be leaning towards this guy, Charles. But obviously I don't really have a theory. There's not like a whole lot of theories on this case, and it's not really like a theory-driven case like a lot of the cases that I talk about are. But I still would love to know what you guys think of this case, and if I missed any information, definitely make sure to comment it down below in the comments. Let me know what...
The fact that he served 11 years is kind of nuts to me. Like, it kind of just shows how broken our justice system is. That you could kill somebody and spend 11 years in prison, get out. Well, first of all, you could kill a kid, spend 11 years in jail, get out, have 2 kids of your own, and have a perfectly normal life. After killing
a kid?
After killing a kid, presumably 3 maybe. That's that's crazy. That's some literally crazy shit. I think that's the most plausible thing is that the guy who said he did it, or the guy whose voice matches. I think I'd be more inclined to believe the guy who said he did it, just because voices can sound the same. Like, I can make voices. There are people who get paid to do voices and sound like other people. So people can sound the same by accident. People, like, just because you haven't heard a dialect or a specific type of voice before doesn't mean it's super unique. Just means maybe you haven't been outside of your own little bubble. And back in those days, I don't think many people were too much outside of their own bubble. It's not like YouTube existed, or Facebook or Twitter, or any of these things where we're seeing people from all over the world talk now and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, I will leave it there. Sucks that Chicago police couldn't pull out a W for this video. I wish they could, but it's all right. Hopefully it was none of the people that we suspect it was, and the person that it actually was died, like right after they did it. But anyway, you got anything to say?
No, this was pretty straightforward. Might have been a crazy random person for all we know. Crazy homeless, crazy anyone.
Yeah, it could have been a crazy person. I mean, it obviously was a crazy person, but like it could have just been a totally random person that the cops never even thought about or looked at. Which is really sad to think about. It's sad to think that people can get away with
murder.
Yeah. But it is something that happens, and it's something that I think is often overlooked in today's society. People get away with so much stuff. And that's why it's kind of up to us to be careful, and up to us to watch out for each other and make sure that we're safe in as many ways as possible. So definitely care for your neighbors. Look out for people, even if you don't know them. Peace out. All right, love you guys. Stay safe out there. Make sure others stay safe.
Luke.
Tom, subscribe. Subscribe. All right. Bye, guys. Oh, wrong.